back to Market on Close. Shares of Dell are 8.5% higher on the day so far after a group of analysts raised its price targets on shares following the raising of its long-term guidance yesterday. Mizuho, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Bernstein all boost their targets and kept a buy or an overweight rating on shares. Dell has now gained more than 15% on the week and is up more than 40% in 2025. And with that, it's time for Options Corner. Joining us here is our lead market technician, Rick Ducat, here to break down all things Dell for us. Big day for Dell, big day yesterday, bigger day today with all this analyst activity. You know, as we look at Dell against the broader markets, how is it stacking up?
Well, within the past couple of weeks here, we are making a big recovery here. For a while, it was not doing so hot, relatively speaking here. Many things hit those lows during that tariff news announcement, have come roaring back, especially the tech sector. If we were to compare Dell to some of the other personal computer makers, we have Apple, obviously, not technically a PC, and they make Macs, but also Lenovo and HP here. Dell is really the standout outperformer by far here, up 34% during the past year. HPQ really struggling here. People don't use printers quite as much as they used to, as it would be one surface level take for that. But why is Dell doing so well then? What's different about Dell? Well, Dell has much more exposure to the storage space here. So this is kind of the picks and shovels play of the whole AI and quantum computing boom. So these companies like Western Digital, Seagate, and Micron that make the storage chips and storage devices here are really the strong outperformers in this space. So something to consider here, a bit of a pullback from some of these other more high-flying names at this point. But that's kind of what makes Dell a little bit different from the other ones.
I love when you break it down against the competitors, and then when they're in multiple spaces, just you can really see the performance here on Dell. We've got quite a bit of commentary coming out of this analyst day, particularly from CEO Michael Dell, elaborating on how this AI picks and shovels move is really why they're upping their growth targets.
Yeah, he was quoted saying demand for computing power is tremendous due to AI. And we saw them lifting their forecast, committing to a 10% annual dividend hike. There was all kinds of news for Dell recently here. When we do look at their price action, we can see that you could perhaps draw this kind of broader-based blue trend line here, this channel encompassing a lot of the price activity. I wouldn't say this is a particularly good trend line or anything like that, just kind of trying to describe the general activity that we've seen of higher lows and higher highs. This area right here would be more the prominent pattern here, this rising wedge-type shape here, where we have two trend lines both pointing upward and converging toward each other, with the lower level being more steep. Oftentimes, this is viewed as being slightly more of a bearish type of pattern here, but as you can see, it doesn't always hold true. We are having an upside breakout from the pattern today. We topped out near about 166.10. We have backed off a little bit here. If there were some downside levels to consider, the point near about 150 or so around here, and also about 140, 141 or so, high points, low points, etc. This was about where we had our high close before we had this brief pullback here. If we were to also consider our other studies here, RSI, some other things, we can see that RSI is crossing back into the overbought area. Momentum is still strengthening here and actually even making highs beyond its old peak here. So that would be what you would want to see if you were bullish in this name, not seeing any divergence or anything. We are kind of crossing above some of these areas here. This point that we saw with our yellow 21-day moving average has been left in the dust. Our volume nodes have really started to thin out as well. Now we are between our +2 and +3 standard deviation channels for the year. So some boundaries to watch there, 150, 450, and 171 or so.
All right, so as we talk about options activity today, knowing that we had the major headlines yesterday about their updating their long-term growth forecasts, and now today with the analyst response overwhelmingly positive, did we see an uptick in the volume of options trading on Dell, and how did it weigh out calls versus puts?
Yes, the sizzle was elevated. It was about 3 times the 5-day simple moving average of options volume here. We were around 98,000 contracts of total volume, 64% calls. Not the most actively traded name, but that's pretty decent decent activity here. It's all relative. You know, Tesla is like over 1 million. This is pretty substantial still. If we were to think about the expected move over the next 9 days for our October 17th expiration, about a plus minus $11.5 move, 7.2%. The lower end lines up pretty closely with our 150 level that we highlighted, our dark green line there. The upper edge lines up fairly closely with that plus 3 standard deviation channel as well. So around 171, 172 is where you might start to see things thin out in terms of the gas left in the tank for the move up.
Yeah, and right now trading about 164, so that would, make sense to that move to the upside. As far as any notable trades that you saw, was anyone making any moves on Dell today?
Yeah, there was one big trade. The most notable trade was minus 1,000, January 16th, 155 calls at a 2060 credit, $2 million credit received, probably a closing trade. Selling the 155 calls to open wouldn't really make a lot of sense. They would be already in the money and exposed to assignment risk. But there was too much activity to clearly identify when this one might have started out here. But the last time I checked, the value of that specific option was up 46% today alone. So, big moves, strong candle, still pretty close to the highs of the day.
Yeah, and shares still trading up more than 8% now on that positive. Analyst action getting very close to 9% as we wrap up Options Corner.